disclosure. UFO alien 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 disclosure. Let's go.
Okay, so have you seen this Miami Mall alien thing?
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
When I saw that video, I have to admit, I was hooked.
It's wild, right?
Totally wild. You and like millions of others, apparently. A shadowy figure, like towering over Bayside Marketplace, police everywhere. I mean, it definitely looked like, something straight out of like a sci-fi movie. But you've sent over a ton of articles and expert analyses of this, so I think we need to like unpack this mystery together, try to figure out what really went down.
Yeah, what's really interesting here is how this whole incident, it really taps into like our collective fascination with the unknown. You know what I mean?
I do.
Think about it. For like centuries, we've told these stories about strange creatures and like unexplained phenomena.
Oh, absolutely.
It seems like there's a part of us that's like always looking for something beyond the everyday,
Yeah.
Something extraordinary.
For sure. And in the age of social media, those stories can spread like wildfire. I mean, the video posted by TikTok user, a guy named T-Fits, claimed to show like a 10-foot alien right there, like amidst the chaos. Millions of views almost instantly.
Oh yeah, and that's where things get really fascinating from like a psychological perspective.
Okay, lay it on me.
So you see, our brains are wired to like find patterns and make sense of the world around us.
Right.
And when we're faced with something we don't understand, especially in like a really high-stress situation, our minds can kind of like fill in the gaps.
Oh, so you're saying that what guy named T-Fits thought he saw might not have been what was actually happening.
Exactly. Eyewitness accounts, especially in like those chaotic situations, they're just notoriously unreliable.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Studies have actually shown that stress hormones like cortisol can really interfere with memory and coding.
Wow.
Plus, our brains are like susceptible to this thing called confirmation bias.
Oh, yeah.
We tend to interpret information in a way that confirms our pre-existing beliefs,
Right.
Right.
So in this case, if guy named Fitz already believed in aliens or was, kind of primed by that crazy scene to expect something really weird, he might have been more likely to interpret that shadowy figure as, a visitor from another planet.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And this is where the power of social media really comes into play.
Okay.
These platforms can act as like these echo chambers. They can reinforce our existing beliefs and make it harder to consider alternative viewpoints.
Which brings us to the official explanation from the Miami Police Department. Their statement attributed the large police presence to a group of juveniles, causing disturbances with fireworks and looting. No aliens, just teenagers causing trouble. They even released a statement from Officer Rafael Horta, who was at the scene. Let's actually hear a bit of what he had to say.
Okay, yeah.
All right, guys, so just to address a few clips that are going viral on social media right now. First, our response to that big incident in Bayside Marketplace. What happened was there was about 50 or more juveniles that were shooting fireworks at people. There was also some looting going on, so officers that were on that scene were having a little bit of trouble containing it, so they called what is called a citywide 3, which every officer in the city responded. That's why you saw so much police presence for that call to contain that crowd. Now, there is now video going viral of 8 to 10 foot aliens walking around Bayside. Is actually just a person walking with a shadow. So I can confirm to you all here today right now that there are no aliens in Miami in Bayside Marketplace at the moment.
Pretty straightforward, right?
Seems like it, yeah.
But even with the police statement and the expert analysis of the video, some people are still like clinging to the alien theory.
Oh, interesting.
Why do you think that is? Well, for some people, letting go of a belief, even when they're presented with evidence that totally contradicts it, it can be really challenging. It's about more than just logic,
Yeah.
It's about identity. It's about community. It's about a sense of belonging. People might identify very strongly with a certain belief system, and to change their mind would mean questioning their whole worldview.
Right. It's like, even if it wasn't an alien, the idea of it was just exciting.
Yeah.
And maybe some people prefer to hold on to that excitement, even if it means like ignoring the evidence.
Right.
But what about the evidence? Several articles you sent, they delved into this. They like dissected the video frame by frame.
Right.
What did they find?
Well, they found that the alien was most likely just a person casting a long shadow.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The low lighting conditions and the chaotic scene just created like the perfect environment for an optical illusion.
Oh, wow.
And, optical illusions aren't just fun party tricks. They actually reveal a lot about how our brains process visual information.
Oh, tell me more about that. I'm always fascinated by how our brains can be tricked.
Okay, well, it's all about how our brains interpret light and shadow and perspective.
Okay.
Our eyes, they take in that raw visual data, but it's our brains that construct the images that we actually perceive. Like, for example, have you ever seen those impossible objects? Like the Penrose Triangle.
Oh, yeah, where the lines don't seem to connect, right?
Exactly. Those are classic examples of how our brains try to impose order and logic on visual information, even when it's completely contradictory. And in the case of the Miami Mall alien, the low lighting, the chaotic movement of the crowd, and just the angle of the video, they all kind of combined to create an illusion of something that wasn't actually there.
So basically, our brains were primed to see an alien, and the lighting and the perspective in the video would just reinforce that perception.
Right. It's a perfect example of how easily our senses can be fooled.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of being critical of what we see, especially when it comes to, sensational content online.
Totally. It makes you wonder, if we can be so easily fooled by a video of a supposed alien at a mall, what about other, more serious topics? How do we navigate this world of misinformation and ensure we're getting a clear picture of what's really going on?
That's a crucial question, and it's one we'll be exploring in more depth as we kind of continue our deep dive here.
Mainstream media won't cover these stories, but we do. UFO Deep Dive goes beyond the headlines to explore UFOs, whistleblower accounts, and hidden phenomena. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and journey with us into the beyond.
What if I told you that the truth might be stranger than fiction? Imagine hearing first-hand accounts of UFO sightings, government secrets, and eerie alien encounters, all in one place. That's what you get with UFO Deep Dive. Every week, we peel back the layers of mystery surrounding UFOs, ancient legends, and modern conspiracies. Listen now on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and prepare yourself for the stories that the mainstream won't touch. UFO Deep Dive, because the truth is out there.
Ever wondered about the mysteries of the universe? From UFO sightings to ancient aliens, UFO Deep Dive explores it all. Join us each week as we dive into the strange, unexplained, and beyond. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your curiosity deserves answers.
Okay, so we've established that the alien was likely just a trick of the light, just a product of our brains trying to make sense of a really crazy situation. But even if this specific incident wasn't an alien encounter, it does raise some pretty fascinating questions about the broader phenomenon of alien sightings and our enduring fascination with the unknown.
It's fascinating how this incident echoes a long history of similar sightings, especially in public spaces.
Oh, yeah.
From the classic flying saucer sightings of the 1950s to, more recent reports of strange lights in the sky.
Right.
These stories seem to tap into almost like a primal fear and fascination with the unknown.
Yeah, I'm thinking about those grainy photos of UFOs that used to circulate,
Yeah.
And the stories about alien abductions.
Oh, totally.
There's definitely a whole cultural mythology around all of this.
Absolutely. And if you look closely at these stories, you often find these common threads.
Okay.
They tend to emerge during times of social upheaval or uncertainty.
Yeah.
Almost as if we're projecting our anxieties onto the cosmos.
So it's when the world feels chaotic and unpredictable, we look for explanations, even if those explanations involve beings from other planets.
Exactly. It's a way of making sense of the unexplainable. And in a way, it's almost comforting. The thought that we're not alone in the universe, that there might be other intelligent beings out there, it can offer a sense of hope, even if it's based on speculation rather than evidence.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's even if our own world feels like it's falling apart, maybe there's somewhere else, some other civilization where things are better. But let's go back to this idea of social media as an echo chamber. You mentioned earlier how these platforms can reinforce our existing beliefs. Can you explain that a bit more? How does that actually work?
Okay, well, it all comes down to algorithms. Social media platforms use algorithms to kind of curate the content we see based on our past behavior, our likes, our interactions. This can create what's called a filter bubble, where we're primarily exposed to information that aligns with our existing views.
So if I'm constantly liking and sharing posts about, say, alien conspiracies, the algorithm will just keep feeding me more and more of that content.
Exactly. And over time, this can create like a distorted perception of reality. We might start to believe that our views are more widely held than they actually are, simply because that's all we're seeing reflected back to us.
It's almost like being in a room full of people who all agree with you. You start to think that everyone must think this way, even if it's just a small, self-selected group.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And it highlights the importance of actively seeking out diverse perspectives, even if they kind of challenge our existing beliefs.
So how do we break out of these echo chambers? Any tips for our listeners?
Sure. First, be mindful of the content you're consuming and the sources you're trusting. Diversify your news feeds and follow people with different viewpoints. Second, engage in respectful dialogue with people who hold different beliefs. Ask questions, listen carefully, and try to understand where they're coming from. Finally, be willing to question your own assumptions and biases. We all have them, and acknowledging them is the first step toward overcoming them.
These are great points. It's so easy to get caught up in the echo chamber effect without even realizing it. But it's essential to remember that there's a whole world of different perspectives out there, and exposing ourselves to those perspectives can only make us more informed and well-rounded individuals. Okay, so back to aliens for a moment. Even if this incident wasn't a close encounter of the third kind, it does tap into something pretty primal, right? This fascination with the unknown, the possibility of life beyond Earth.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the power of storytelling. Humans are narrative creatures. We crave stories that help us make sense of the world, stories that give us a sense of wonder and possibility. And alien stories, whether they're based in fact or fiction, they offer a powerful escape from the mundane.
Right.
They allow us to imagine other worlds, other beings, other possibilities.
It's like even with all our scientific advancements, we still have this part of us that wants to believe in something bigger than ourselves, something mysterious and unexplained.
Exactly. And, there's a whole field of study dedicated to this, the psychology of belief. Researchers are trying to understand why we believe what we believe, how our beliefs are formed, and why they can be so resistant to change, even in the face of contradictory evidence.
That's so interesting. I mean, this whole incident has been like a case study in the psychology of belief.
Right.
We see how our perceptions can be shaped by our pre-existing beliefs, how social media can reinforce those beliefs, and how difficult it can be to change our minds, even when presented with evidence that challenges our worldview.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of critical thinking skills now more than ever. We're bombarded with information from all sides, and it's up to each of us to filter through it, evaluate sources, and form our own informed conclusions.
I want to bring this back to our listeners for a moment. You sent in all this information about the Miami Mall alien incident, so clearly you're intrigued by this too. What's grabbing your attention the most about all of this? Is it the power of social media, the psychology behind what we choose to believe, or maybe the mystery of whether or not we're alone in the universe?
I'd say it's likely a combination of all those factors, wouldn't you say?
It would.
This incident gives us this really fascinating lens through which we can examine not only our relationship with technology and information, but also some of our deepest fears and aspirations as a species.
As we've been unpacking this, I'm realizing this deep dive isn't just about figuring out if an alien landed in Miami.
Right.
It's about understanding ourselves, how we process information, and how we make sense of the world around us.
Exactly. And sometimes, even when we debunk a specific event, like we've done here with the Miami Mall alien, the larger questions, they sort of linger.
Yeah.
And those are often the most thought-provoking. It makes you wonder, what other stories are out there waiting to be examined, waiting to be understood? What other mysteries are we holding on to, even when the evidence might suggest otherwise?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, even with all the evidence pointing to a simple explanation for the Miami Mall alien, some people are still holding on to that belief that it was something extraterrestrial.
And that's okay. It speaks to the human need for wonder, for mystery.
Right.
The world can feel pretty mundane sometimes.
Yeah, it can.
And these stories, whether they're true or not, they offer a sense of excitement, like a break from the ordinary.
I get that. But it also makes me think about how this applies to other areas of our lives.
Yeah.
If we can cling to beliefs about aliens, even when the evidence contradicts them, what about other beliefs? Beliefs that might have real-world consequences.
That's a really crucial point. It's easy to dismiss something like the Miami Mall alien as just harmless fun.
Yeah.
But the same cognitive biases that lead us to believe in aliens, they can also influence our beliefs about politics, religion, health, and so many other aspects of our lives.
So how do we become more aware of these biases? How do we ensure we're not letting them cloud our judgment and lead us to make decisions that might not be in our best interest?
Well, the first step is awareness. Recognizing that we all have biases and that these biases can influence our thinking is crucial. Once we're aware of our biases, we can start to question them, challenge them, and look for evidence that might contradict our existing beliefs.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It can be, but it's incredibly rewarding. Think of it as like a mental workout. Just like we exercise our bodies to stay healthy, we need to exercise our minds to stay sharp and avoid falling prey to misinformation and cognitive traps.
So it's not about eliminating our beliefs altogether, but about examining them, questioning them, and being open to the possibility that we might be wrong.
Exactly. And it's about cultivating a healthy skepticism, not just of information we encounter online, but also of our own thoughts and perceptions. Remember, our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world, but sometimes they take shortcuts, relying on biases and assumptions that might not be accurate.
It's like we need to become our own fact checkers.
Yeah.
Not just for the news we read, but for the thoughts we think.
Precisely. And that's where critical thinking skills come in. Learning how to evaluate sources, identify logical fallacies, and assess the validity of information is essential in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides.
So even if this Miami Mall alien turned out to be nothing more than a trick of the light, it's given us a lot to think about.
It really has.
It's made us question our perceptions, examine our biases, and consider the power of belief.
Absolutely. And it's reminded us that the world is full of mysteries, some solved, some not. But even in the absence of concrete answers, the process of inquiry, the pursuit of knowledge, the willingness to question and explore, that's where the real magic lies.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you, our listeners, with a final thought. What mysteries are you curious about? What beliefs do you hold that might deserve a closer look? We encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive. Until next time, stay curious.
UFO alien disclosure. UFO alien disclosure. UFO alien disclosure. UFO alien disclosure. Let's go.